Chapter 1. The Unseen Wound. How your deepest pain carves the space for your greatest strength. You know that ache, the one you carry not in your muscle, not in your bone, but in the quiet marrow of your memory. It's the weight you adjust to every morning, the slight limp in your spirit you've learned to walk with. We all have one. We try to outrun it, to silence it with noise, to bury it under a mountain of tomorrow's worries. But what if I told you that very ache, that specific, personal, sacred wound, is not a flaw in your design? What if it is the design? That the most tender part of you is not a weakness waiting to be exploited, but a hollow space, carefully, deliberately carved out, waiting to be filled with a strength you can't yet imagine. Imagine for a moment, not your pain, but a sculptor's studio, dust motes dancing in a sliver of afternoon light. And there, in the center, a block of marble, pure, unblemished, perfect in its solid, silent wholeness. It is complete, and yet it is nothing. It has no form, no story, no meaning. It is potential, asleep. The sculptor enters, and her tools are not kind. The chisel is sharp, the mallet is heavy. With a strike that echoes in the quiet room, she begins to break it. She chips away at that perfection. She shatters its wholeness. To any outside eye, it is an act of violence, a destruction of something beautiful. But she is not destroying. She is revealing. With every strike, with every fragment that falls away to dust on the floor, she is not making the stone less. She is making the statue more. She is carving out the spaces, the hollows for the eyes to see, the gap for the lips to part in song, the empty curve where the hand will forever cup the air. The wound in the stone is what gives the statue its vision, its voice, its gesture of grace. Without those emptinesses, it remains a prisoner of its own potential, forever a block and never a soul. This was the heart of Aristotle's vision. He looked at life not as a path toward some distant, pain-free paradise, but as a process of becoming. A telos, he called it, our purpose. And he believed with a quiet, unshakable conviction that we are not born finished. We are born as that block of marble. And life, with all its sharp edges, its losses, its struggles, its weary nights, life is the sculptor. Your pain is not the mallet striking you down. It is the chisel carving you out. It is the precise instrument that removes everything you are not, so that all you are meant to be can finally emerge. That heartbreak that left you feeling hollowed out, it wasn't making you less. It was carving a chamber in your soul, a vast, empty space that now has the capacity to hold a love more profound, more understanding, more resilient than you ever thought possible. That failure that scraped you raw, it was sanding away a brittle layer of pride, revealing a stronger, more flexible grain of character beneath. We spend our lives trying to patch these holes, to fill these gaps with distraction, to pretend the chisel never fell. But Aristotle whispers from the shadows of 2,000 years, stop. Stop fighting the hollow feeling. Lean into it. Touch the edges of that space inside you. For it is not a sign of your damage. It is a map of your destiny. It is the exact shape of the strength you are meant to contain. The world will see the strength, solid and impressive. But only you will know that its beautiful, unbreakable form was defined, once upon a time, by the precise shape of an unseen wound. And as you feel the truth of that your scars are not flaws, but the outlines of a future self, a question might begin to form in the quiet of your mind. If this pain is the chisel, then what is it forging? What is being shaped in the dark, in the struggle, in the weary heat of it all? The answer lies not in the stillness, but in the fire itself. Chapter 2. The Alchemy of the Heavy Heart. Why Aristotle believed your weary nights are a forge, not a tomb. There is a weariness that goes beyond the body, a fatigue that settles in the soul, making even the softest pillow feel like stone. It's the weight of the world you tried to carry today, the worry you couldn't outpace, the grief that visits in the silence. We treat this weight like a thief in the night, here to steal our peace, our rest, our joy. We fight it. We resent it. We beg for a night, just one night, where it would leave us alone. But what if this weight is not your enemy? What if, in the strange and silent alchemy of the human spirit, this crushing pressure is the one thing that can transform the lead of your suffering into the gold of your character? What if the very thing keeping you awake is, in fact, the only thing that can truly put you to sleep? Aristotle saw the world in terms of change, of potential becoming actual. And he understood that for any transformation to occur, there must be a catalyst, a trigger. For a seed to become a tree, it must be buried in the dark, crushing pressure of the soil. It must be broken open by the weight of the earth before it can reach for the weight of the sky. For a lump of coal to become a diamond, it must endure unimaginable pressure and heat, deep in the silent, dark heart of the world. There is no change, no real change, that happens in comfort. Comfort preserves. It keeps things as they are. It is struggle, pressure, and heat that transmute, that alchemize. Your heavy heart tonight is not a symptom of failure. It is the heat of your own personal forge. It is the pressure of your transformation. You are not lying in a tomb of your worries. You are in the workshop of your soul. Think of the last time you felt a truly profound sense of peace. Not just the absence of noise, but a deep, resonant calm. I would wager it did not come on a day of perfect ease. It came after a storm. It arrived in the quiet aftermath of a great effort, a difficult conversation, a hard-won understanding. That peace was earned. It was forged. It is the diamond that only exists because of the pressure that created it. Aristotle called this process catharsis, a word we often misuse. It is not merely venting or release. It is a purification, a cleansing by fire. It is the process by which the heavy, chaotic, painful emotions of our lives, our pity and our fear, are burned in the furnace of our understanding and are transmuted into something else, into wisdom, into compassion, into a profound and unshakable clarity. That weight you feel on your chest, it is the raw material. The heat of your awareness, your willingness to feel it and not run, is the fire. And the peace that awaits you on the other side, the deep, soul-level sleep, that is the gold, the alchemized self. So tonight, do not see your struggle as the obstacle to your rest. See it as the very path to it. The forge is hot. The transformation is already underway. Your only task is to stop fighting the heat and let yourself be forged. And in that allowing, in that surrender to the forge's fire, a final gentle truth begins to emerge from the flames. It speaks of a shape, a form, a blueprint that has been there all along, waiting for the struggle to finally reveal it. Chapter 3. The Soul's Unspoken Blueprint. And what happens when we finally stop fighting the shape we were meant to hold? Everything in nature has its shape. An acorn is not just a seed. It is a miniature, a promise, a perfect set of instructions for an oak tree. A river is not just water. It is a path of least resistance, a relentless, patient journey toward the sea, wearing away at anything that is not the riverbed. It is being what it is, utterly and completely. It has achieved its arete, its excellence, its virtue. For Aristotle, this was the highest aim of human life, to become an excellent human. Not excellent compared to anyone else, but to fulfill your own unique inherent blueprint, to become, utterly and completely, what you are. But here is the secret the philosophers rarely tell you. The blueprint is written in a language of struggle. The only way to discover the shape of your own soul is to listen to the things that rub against it. The only way to find your true path is to notice where you keep meeting resistance. Imagine walking through a pitch-black forest at night. You have no map, no moon, no light. How do you find your way? You cannot see the path, so you must feel for it. You reach out your hands, and you feel the rough bark of the trees that are not the path. You feel the prickly thorns of the bushes that are not the path. You feel the unstable softness of the marsh that is not the path. Every single thing you touch that is wrong, that is difficult, that is an obstacle, is telling you, with perfect clarity, where the path is not. And in doing so, it is slowly, secretly, defining the path itself. Your struggles, your irritations, your frustrations, the things that keep you up at night feeling like you are bumping into a world that doesn't fit you. These are not signs that you are broken. They are your hands in the dark, feeling the edges of your own unique blueprint, that relationship that feels like constant friction. It is showing you the precise shape of your need for peace. That work that drains you, that feels like a suit 2 sizes too small. It is outlining the contours of your true calling, that fear that grips you in the silence. It is a shadow cast by the exact opposite of what you deeply, truly desire. Your pain is not a random affliction. It is a divine navigation system. It is the feedback from the universe whispering, "Not this way. This is not you. Turn here." This friction is a sign you are moving against your own grain. To live a good life, according to Aristotle, is to live a life of virtue, of excellence. And virtue is found in the balance, in the golden mean between excess and deficiency. But how do you find that balance? You find it by feeling the ache of the extremes. You find courage not by never knowing fear, but by feeling the paralyzing grip of cowardice on one side and the reckless burn of foolhardiness on the other. Your pain, your struggle, is the feedback. It is the universe's way of saying, "You're getting colder, warmer, you're burning up. You've found it." The goal is not to eliminate the struggle. The goal is to listen to it, to let it guide you home to yourself. To stop trying to be the mighty, unfeeling oak when your blueprint is for the flexible, resilient willow. To stop trying to be the raging river when your soul is the deep, still lake. Your exhaustion tonight is not a sentence. It is a homing beacon. It is the tiredness of a soul that has been walking all day in the wrong direction, bumping into everything that it is not. So let go. Stop walking. Lie down here in the dark and just listen. Listen to the ache. It is not your enemy. It is your oldest, most faithful guide, whispering the only map you will ever need. The map back to the unspoken, magnificent blueprint of you. And in that knowing, you can finally rest. Chapter 4. The Sculptor's Secret. How the chisel's bite is not a punishment, but a love letter from the marble itself. Have you ever considered that the ache you carry might not be a flaw in your design, but the very evidence of its intention? That this weight in your chest, this familiar soreness, could be the ghost of a sculptor's hand, pausing to consider the next most perfect cut. What if your pain is not a sign that you are breaking, but the unmistakable feeling of a shape emerging? Imagine, if you will, a block of marble, not just any marble, the purest, most flawless Carrara white. It stands in a silent studio, dust motes dancing in the slanted light of evening. It is perfect in its way, untouched, unharmed, a smooth, cold, and complete thing. It has never known the bite of a chisel. It has never shuddered under the mallet's blow. It is safe. But is it what it was meant to be? A sculptor enters the studio. His hands are rough. His eyes are soft. He doesn't see a block. He sees a form trapped within it. He sees the curve of a shoulder, the line of a jaw, the tender hollow of a closed eye. He sees a soul sleeping in the stone. And his purpose, his only purpose, is to wake it, to separate what is essential from what is merely extra. The first touch of the chisel is not a violation. It is an introduction. A question. Are you in there? And the marble, in its language of resistance and release, answers. It cracks along a hidden fault line. It grits beneath the steel. It feels, for the first time, a sensation so alien it can only be called pain. A piece of itself, sheared away, gone, forever. And from our perspective, if we were that block of marble, what would we feel? Betrayal, an attack, a sudden shocking loss of our wholeness. We would long for the time before, for the quiet, cold, uncomplicated peace of being just a block. We would curse the hand that wounded us. We would see the sculptor not as a liberator, but as an enemy. This is the great misperception of the human heart. Aristotle, walking the sun-drenched peripatos of his Lyceum, saw the world not as a collection of finished things, but as things striving to become. He called it entelechia, the soul's purpose, the inherent design of a thing urging it toward its own perfect and complete expression. An acorn's entelechia is the oak tree. It is not yet the oak, but the oak is the reason for the acorn. It is the potential, the finished blueprint hidden within the seed. Your entelechia is the you that you are meant to become, the most vibrant, the most authentic, the most fully realized version of yourself. But you, my friend, are not an acorn. You are a block of marble, and the you that is meant to be is trapped inside. So how does potential become real? How does the blueprint become the building? How does the soul become itself? It requires a sculptor. And who is the sculptor? Is it God? Is it fate? Is it the cold, indifferent universe? Perhaps. But I think it is something more intimate, more immediate. I think the sculptor is life itself. Life, with its rough and loving hands. Life, with its unexpected losses, its heartbreaks, its failures, its long, lonely nights, staring at a ceiling that offers no answers. Every struggle is a chisel. Every disappointment is a mallet swing. Every pang of anxiety, every wave of grief, every moment where you feel utterly lost. It is not random. It is not meaningless cruelty. It is the sculptor's hand, feeling for the shape within. Think of a struggle in your own life, one that left a mark. The ending of a story you thought would last a lifetime. A dream that didn't just fade, but was publicly, painfully dismantled. A failure that echoed in the silence of your own mind for years. From one angle, it is pure loss. A chunk of your marble lying on the floor. A wound, a flaw. But tilt your head. Look at the space it left behind. That emptiness. What is its shape? Did it carve out a new capacity for resilience? Did it create a hollow that later filled with a deeper, more compassionate understanding for others who are hurting? Did the removal of that one thing make room for something else to grow, something truer? The pain of the chisel is real. The ache is not an illusion. We must never dismiss it. To do so would be to disrespect the marble. But what if we could, just for a moment, shift our relationship to that ache? What if we could see it not as a symptom of our breaking, but as the intense, focused sensation of our becoming? Aristotle believed that virtue, arete, excellence of character, is not born in comfort. It is forged in the difficult choices, the hard actions, the struggles we would rather avoid. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is what is sculpted out of our encounter with fear. Temperance is not the lack of desire. It is the beautiful form that emerges when we carve away our indulgences. Justice, compassion, wisdom. These are not just ideas. They are muscles, and muscles only grow under resistance. They only define themselves under strain. Your weariness tonight, it has a texture. It is not a smooth, featureless fatigue. It is specific. It is the grit of the marble dust on the floor. It is the memory of the chisel's pressure on a particular spot. That specific ache is a map. It tells you what is being worked on, what is being refined, what is being ever so slowly released. The block of marble, safe in its corner, never suffers. But it also never becomes. It never knows the awe of a human hand tracing its curves. It never knows the rain on its face or the sun warming its form. It never knows that it was meant to be more than a block. It simply exists, and then it crumbles. Its potential forever a secret, even to itself. The soul that never learns this, the one that sees every struggle as a curse, every pain as a mistake, that soul will spend its life trying to become a better block of marble. It will try to smooth over every crack, patch every chip, hide every flaw. It will try to return to a wholeness that was never whole, because it was never truly itself. It will live in fear of the sculptor's tools, and in doing so, it will never meet the masterpiece it was always meant to be. But you are listening, and that means you are feeling the work. You are in the studio. The lanterns are lit. The tools are in hand. The dust is in the air. It is not a comfortable place, but it is a sacred one. So tonight, as you drift toward the edges of sleep, I want you to do something brave. I want you to turn toward that ache, that specific weariness you carry. Don't fight it. Don't beg it to leave. Just get to know its shape. Ask it gently what it might be carving away. What space is it creating inside of you? What new contour of your soul is it revealing? The chisel's bite is not a punishment. It is the marble's own secret finally being told. It is a love letter from your deepest self to your present self, written in the only language strong enough to get your attention, the language of feeling. And remember, the sculptor only works on a piece he believes is worthy of completion. The ache is the proof that you are. And just as the last echo of the mallet fades in the dusty studio, a new sound arrives, not from the air but from the deep, a low resonant hum. The sound a great chain makes when it is pulled taut after years of lying still on the ocean floor. It is the sound of being held fast, and the sound of knowing, finally, which way is north. Chapter 5. The Anchor and the Compass. Why your deepest struggle is the only thing that can truly orient a lost soul. There is a quiet, desperate question that lives in the heart of the night, when the world is asleep and you are alone with your thoughts. It is a question of orientation, of lostness. Where am I? And how did I get here? We often think of our struggles as weights, as anchors that hold us back, that keep us stuck in the depths, preventing us from sailing towards sunnier, brighter shores. We tug at the chain, we strain against the rope, we see the anchor as our enemy. But what if we have it backwards? What if the anchor is not what holds you down, but what holds you together? What if, in a sea that has no bottom, your struggle is the only thing that keeps you from drifting forever, lost in an endless, featureless blue? And what if that same anchor, as it sinks its claws into the dark, unseen bottom, is the only thing that can truly show you which way is up? Close your eyes. Not to sleep, not yet, just to see. Picture an ocean at night, a vast, black, undulating plain under a sky with no stars. There is no horizon. There is only you, in a small boat. And you are tired, so terribly tired from rowing. You've been rowing for days, for years, trying to find a current that will carry you, trying to find a star to steer by. But there is nothing. Only the dark and the water and the sound of your own breath. This is the feeling of profound disorientation, when the old maps no longer match the coastline, when the philosophies you were given as a child shatter against the rocks of adult experience, when you cannot, for the life of you, remember what you're fighting for, or why it even matters. This is the sea with no bottom. And in this place, the most dangerous thing is not the storm. It is the calm. It is the drift. It is the slow, silent, imperceptible current that carries you further and further into nowhere, until you forget there ever was a somewhere. This is how souls vanish, not with a scream, but with a sigh. Now, feel your struggle, that thing that weighs on you, that anxiety that sits in your stomach, that grief that feels like a stone in your chest, that failure that follows you like a shadow. We call it baggage. We call it a burden. We want to throw it overboard. We think it's sinking us. But what if you dropped it on purpose? Not to be rid of it, but to use it, to let it fall away from the boat, down through the black water, down, 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 until you feel the line go taut. Thump. The anchor has found the bottom. Suddenly, you are not drifting anymore. The endless, dizzying, nauseating drift stops. You are held. You are connected to something solid, something real, in a world of liquid uncertainty. The struggle, the pain, the thing you hated, it has just become the only solid ground you have. It has given you a point of reference. You are no longer lost at sea. You are here, precisely, undeniably here. This is what Aristotle understood about pathos, about experience, suffering, emotion. It is not a distraction from the philosophical life. It is its very foundation. Our struggles are not interruptions of our journey. They are the points on the map that define it. They are the data, the raw, unfiltered, tactile information of what is real. You can read 1,000 books on heartbreak, but until you feel the anchor of your own heartbreak grab the ocean floor, you know nothing of it. And in knowing it, you know yourself. You know your depth. The anchor does more than just hold you. It orients you. Feel the pull of the chain, that tension. It is a line that runs straight down into the dark. And if it runs straight down, then you know with absolute certainty which way is UP. Your struggle defines your vertical axis. Downward is the weight, the truth, the reality of your experience. Upward is the potential, the hope, the air, and the light. Before you dropped the anchor, which way was up? In a featureless sea in a starless night. You could have been upside down, and you would never have known. Your struggle, by showing you the down, has just shown you the up. It becomes your compass. Think of the things that have hurt you most, the rejections, the abandonments, the times you were made to feel small or foolish or unworthy. What did they teach you about what you truly value? If betrayal is a bitter anchor, it's because you value loyalty. If loneliness is a heavy one, it is because you are built for connection. Your pain is a negative image of your deepest values. It is a compass that points toward what you truly, authentically care about, by showing you the precise direction of its absence. The soul that never learns this, that spends its life trying to cut the anchor lines, that soul will be a perpetual drifter. It will float from one pleasant illusion to the next, from one distraction to another, never tasting the depth of true joy, because it has never known the grounding of true sorrow. It will be light as a feather, and just as directionless. It will never know the profound relief of being held, of being stopped, of being forced to be still and feel the solid truth of the ocean floor beneath the endless waves. But you are not drifting. You are feeling the pull. You are held fast. That weight you carry is not your enemy. It is your point of contact with reality. It is your ground. It is the thing that allows you to finally lift your head and look around, to stop fighting the current and simply be, to see that the first faint hints of dawn are now starting to bleed into the edge of the sky. You are not lost. You have been found by the very thing you thought had ruined you. So tonight, don't ask how to cut the anchor line. Ask what your anchor is made of. Ask what ocean floor it has grabbed onto. Feel the certainty of the chain. Follow its tension downward to the truth of your experience. Then follow it upward to the hope of your potential. You are not adrift. You are moored. You are held. And in the quiet stability of that holding, you can finally rest. The boat rocks gently. The waves lap against the hull. The anchor chain hums its low, reassuring song from the dark below. You are exactly where you are. And for tonight, that is enough. And from that deep, still point of mooring, a new kind of silence emerges. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of intense, focused attention. The kind of silence that exists in the space between heartbeats, in the pause between the question and the answer. It is in this silence that the heaviest hours begin to speak, not in words, but in signals. If only we remember how to listen. It will be brilliant, perhaps. It will be functional. It will be productive. But it will never know the riches that lie in its own depths. It will never hear the whispers of its own wisdom. It will be like a man who lives in a house but is forever afraid of the basement, never knowing that the foundation and the treasure are down there in the dark. He will wonder why his house feels so shaky, so hollow, so devoid of meaning, and he will try to fix it by adding more rooms to the top floor when all he ever needed to do was descend. But you are descending right now. The weight is your guide. It is not crushing you. It is leading you down, into the quiet, into the still point. So tonight, if you feel that familiar heaviness returning, don't reach for the light. Don't grasp for a distraction. Take a breath, a slow, deep breath that fills you from the bottom up. And then, let go. Surrender to the weight. Let it pull you down into the pillows, into the mattress, into the safety of the dark. You are not being attacked. You are being invited. Invited to listen to a signal that has been broadcasting since the moment you were born. A signal of who you are, what you love, what you fear, and what you truly, deeply need. It is the truth that exists beneath all the stories you tell yourself, beneath all the noise of the world. It is the sound of your own essence. And as you listen, as you sink deeper into the warmth and the quiet, you'll find that the weight begins to change. It is no longer a pressure from the outside. It is a warmth from the inside. It is not holding you down. It is holding you. The velvet blanket becomes a cocoon. The heavy hours were never your enemy. They were the guardians of a threshold. And you have just crossed over into a place where the soul can finally speak. And all you have to do is listen. The signal is strong tonight. Let it carry you all the way home. Chapter 6. The quiet invitation of the heavy hours, and the forgotten art of listening for the signal beneath all the noise. There is a time between times, in the deepest well of the night, when the weight of being feels physical. It presses down on the chest. It slows the breath. It turns the mind from a sharp, chattering thing into a slow, deep river. These are the heavy hours, and our modern world has taught us to see them as the enemy, to medicate them away, to scroll them away, to fight them with every fiber of our being. But what if we are fighting a messenger? What if the weight is not a burden to be shed, but an invitation to be accepted, an invitation to descend, to a quieter, deeper, more truthful frequency of being? Aristotle spoke of the logos, the rational word, the logical structure of the universe. But the ancient Greeks also understood the value of the mythos, the story, the symbol, the truth that is felt in the bones before it is understood by the mind. The heavy hours are not hours of logos. They are the domain of mythos. Logic sleeps. The soul's radio, usually tuned to the frantic, static-filled station of the day, finally drifts and finds a different signal, an older, slower, more persistent broadcast. It is the signal beneath all the noise. And to hear it, you must do the one thing that feels impossible in those moments. You must stop fighting the weight. You must let it press you down. You must allow yourself to be heavy. Think of a time you were truly, deeply sad. Not annoyed, not frustrated, but soul-weary sad. What was your first impulse? To turn on a light? To find your phone? To call someone? To do something to make it stop? That is the impulse of logos. It is the mind's frantic attempt to fix a problem that the soul does not experience as a problem, but as a process. Now, imagine instead, you simply lie there. You let the sadness be. You don't feed it with dramatic stories. You don't try to solve it. You just feel its weight. You feel it like a thick velvet blanket. It is dark, it is warm, it is isolating, and you sink into it. And as you sink, a strange thing happens. The frantic thoughts begin to slow. The mental chatter, like a room full of anxious people, begins to quiet. One by one, they leave, exhausted, until it is just you and the weight. And in that profound quiet, you begin to hear things you could never hear during the day. You hear the memory of your grandmother's hands, and the truth that love is a thing that outlives the body. You hear the specific sound of rain from a childhood afternoon, and the understanding that peace is a place you can still visit. You hear the unspoken forgiveness you've been withholding from yourself, floating up from the depths like a released bubble. This is the signal. This is the soul speaking in its native tongue, a language of image, memory, sensation, and symbolic truth. It doesn't speak in bullet points. It speaks in poetry. The heavy hours are its preferred medium because the weight creates a stillness, a pressure that allows these subtle, powerful signals to rise to the surface. We think of these nighttime feelings as intrusions. But what if they are the main event? What if the bright, busy, logical day is the interruption? What if the darkness is not the absence of light, but the presence of something else entirely? A deeper, more ancient form of knowing. Aristotle's philosophy was one of observation, of looking at the world and deducing truth from it. But what do you observe when the world disappears, when your eyes are closed? You observe the interior world. The heaviness in your chest is not an abstract emotion. It is a physical fact. Observe it. Where exactly is it located? What is its shape? Its temperature? Its texture? This is you, practicing philosophy on the raw material of your own existence. This is you, becoming a student of yourself. The soul that never learns this, that never accepts the invitation of the heavy hours, that soul will live only on the surface of itself. Chapter 7. The Unarmed Heart, and the Strange Sacred Power of Laying Down Your Invisible Shields. Have you ever considered what you might be carrying that was never yours to hold? Not the weight of the day or the worry for tomorrow, but something older, a shield. An invisible shield you fashioned long ago from the scraps of an old hurt, the cold metal of a warning, the desperate need to feel safe. We all have them. We polish them in the dark. We strap them on each morning without a second thought. We think they are a part of us. But what if the very thing you built to protect your softness is what is keeping you from ever truly feeling peace? What happens to a soul that never ever gets to put its armor down? Imagine it now. That weight on your shoulders, the particular curve of it against your chest. You know its shape, the shield of expecting disappointment, so you are never surprised by it. The shield of quick anger, so no one sees the hurt that lies beneath. The shield of perfection, of constant busyness, of irony that says, nothing matters to me anyway. We raise them against the world, and we call it strength. We call it survival. And perhaps for a time, it is. But a funny thing happens when you walk through life encased in iron. You stop feeling the sun. The gentle, forgiving warmth of a simple, quiet moment cannot find its way to your skin. The tender brush of a kindness offered cannot be felt through the plate metal of your expectation. You are safe, yes, but you are also entombed, a living monument to your own defenses. And the heart, the poor heart, beats a frantic rhythm against this self-made prison, wondering why its home has become so cold, so hard, so echoingly lonely. This is where an old voice, a voice from a sun-drenched grove in ancient Greece, whispers a dangerous, liberating truth. Aristotle spoke of something called eudaimonia, a word we clumsily translate as human flourishing. But it is so much more than happiness. It is the feeling of a life being lived fully, authentically, in accordance with its deepest purpose. And you cannot flourish, you cannot find your purpose while you are dressed for a war that may already be over. Your purpose is not to be a perfect, untouchable fortress. Your purpose is to be a living, breathing, feeling thing. A thing that is, by its very nature, sometimes vulnerable. The armor, you see, was never the point. The armor was a temporary measure for a specific battle. But we mistake it for our skin. We forget we can take it off. And the most courageous act you may ever perform is not to raise your shield higher, but to slowly, carefully, with trembling hands, lay it down. To unclasp the buckles you fastened so tight. To feel the terrifying, exhilarating draft of open air on a part of you that hasn't breathed in years. This is not surrender. This is not weakness. This is the strategic masterstroke of the soul. Because when you are unarmed, you see the world with new eyes. You are no longer looking for threats. You are looking for connections. You are no longer anticipating the blow. You are available for the embrace. The person who has laid down their shield is not defenseless. They are free. They have chosen to trust the universe enough to meet it in their truth, not in their fear. And in that meeting, something miraculous happens. The struggles you faced, they don't disappear, but they change. The pain that felt like an attack to be parried now becomes a message to be understood, a signal from the deepest part of you, asking for your attention, your compassion. When you are not busy defending yourself from everything, you can finally listen to yourself. So tonight, as the world sleeps and the noise fades, ask yourself, what is one shield you are carrying that feels heavier than it used to? Just one. The shield of, I'm fine. The shield of, it doesn't matter. The shield of, I must do this all alone. Feel its weight. Acknowledge its service. It got you here. It protected a softer you when that you needed protecting. And then, in the sacred privacy of this dark room, give yourself permission to imagine setting it down. Not forever. Just for now. Just for this moment. Feel the relief in your shoulder. The expansion of your chest as you take a full, unguarded breath. This small, silent act of disarmament is where true strength begins to grow. It is the fertile ground where peace finally takes root. And it is a secret the most weary, beautiful hearts have always known. There is a second truth waiting in the stillness you've just created. It speaks not of what we must put down, but of what is already, secretly, being built in the emptiness we so fear. Chapter 8. The Midnight Harvest. What the quietest, darkest hours are secretly gathering for you. What if your deepest loneliness is not an empty field, but a garden under moonlight? A place where a different kind of crop is grown, one that cannot be cultivated in the bright, noisy sun of the day. We fear the fallow periods, the stretches of silence, the nights that feel like they will never end. We call them barren. We call them wasted. We fret and we pace, desperate to plant a flag of productivity, of distraction, of light. Anything to prove that this time is not being lost. But what if it is in the losing that something rare is being found? Think of a field after the harvest. It looks spent, exhausted. To the untrained eye, it is a picture of absence. But the wise farmer knows this is not the end of the work. This is the beginning of the most vital, invisible work. This is when the soil rests, when it pulls nutrients deep into itself, when it integrates the remains of what was grown, and prepares in utter darkness for what is to come. It is not doing nothing. It is doing everything. It is in a state of becoming. Your soul operates on the very same principle. Those long, wakeful nights, when the problems of the day replay on the ceiling above you, when the ache of a struggle seems to fill the entire room, that is your fallow season. That is your soil at work. It feels like chaos. It feels like pain. And on one level, it is. But on another, far deeper level, it is a sacred process of composting. Your mind, your spirit, is taking the raw material of your experience, the joy, the grief, the frustration, the love, the failure, and it is breaking it all down. It is turning it over and over in the dark, transforming what was sharp and undigested into something rich, something fertile, something that will eventually feed a new understanding. Aristotle saw nature as having a telos, a purpose, an end goal. The acorn's purpose is to become the oak tree. It strives toward that. Your purpose is to become more fully you. And that becoming requires these periods of decomposition. It requires the breakdown of who you thought you were, so that who you are meant to be can find space to grow. The pain you are feeling, it is the tilling of the soil. The anxiety, it is the signal that something is ready to be transformed. The weariness, it is the exhaustion of a self that is working overtime, deep underground, to make sense of it all. We are so afraid of this process. We want to skip the fallow season. We want to be perennial bloomers, always showing our flowers to the world. But a plant that never rests, never goes dormant, will eventually exhaust itself and die. It is the rhythm of growth and rest, action and integration that creates a life of resilience and depth. Your midnight hours are your dormancy. They are not a punishment. They are a participation in an ancient intelligence cycle. So the next time you find yourself awake in the small hours, heart pounding, mind racing, try something different. Instead of fighting it, instead of seeing it as an enemy to your peace, gently reframe it. Whisper to yourself, "Ah, I am in the fallow field. My soil is at work." Don't try to force a harvest. Don't turn on a bright light. Simply breathe into the darkness. Trust that beneath the surface of your awareness, a vital, quiet harvest is already underway. Your soul is gathering the nutrients from today's struggles. It is preparing the ground for a tomorrow you cannot yet imagine. The peace you seek is not the absence of this work, but the trust that the work is being done on your behalf. You are not falling apart. You are being remade. And the raw material for your renewal is everything you are experiencing right now. Even this, especially this. This remaking, it leaves its marks. It changes our shape. And we often mistake these changes for brokenness, for scars. But if we listen closely to the oldest truths, we might hear a different story altogether. Chapter 9. The Riverbed's Wisdom. How the very things that scrape you hollow are making a deeper channel for peace to flow. Consider a riverbed. It is not smooth. It is not untroubled. It is carved and sculpted by the very current it carries. Over centuries, the water, with its relentless flow, grinds against the rock. It encounters resistance, boulders, fallen logs, sharp turns, and in that meeting, that friction, something profound happens. The water is shaped, yes, but the rock is shaped more. It is worn down, it is scoured, it is hollowed out. To the rock, in any single moment, this must feel like an erasure, a destruction of its form. But step back, see the whole, and you understand. That scraping, that wearing away, is what creates the deep, smooth channel. It is what allows the river to flow more powerfully, more peacefully, with a greater volume and a quieter song. Without the friction, the river would be a frantic, shallow sheet, flooding over a flat plain, never finding its depth, its direction, its purpose. You are both the water and the rock. You are the flow of your life, and you are the form through which it flows. And the struggles you face, the pains that feel like they are scraping you raw, hollowing you out. This is the friction. This is the water meeting the rock. And it is not a flaw in the design. It is the design. It is how your character, your ethos, as Aristotle would name it, is carved. Your virtues are not built by avoiding the current, but by being shaped by it. Patience is carved by the friction of waiting. Resilience is carved by the pressure of setbacks. Compassion is carved hollow by the ache of your own hurt, creating a space where you can finally understand the hurt of another. We spend so much energy trying to smooth out our lives. We pad the corners, we avoid the rocky passages, we pray for an easy flow, and in doing so, we remain shallow. We never get cut deep enough to become a channel for something greater than our own comfort. The pain is the sculptor. It is not your enemy. It is the artist making you into a vessel that can hold more joy because it has learned to hold sorrow, a vessel that can hold more peace because it has been carved smooth by the waters of struggle. The goal is not a life without friction. The goal is to learn the wisdom of the riverbed, to understand that the very things that seem to be wearing you away are in fact creating your capacity, your depth, your ability to carry life's current with grace and power rather than being overwhelmed by it. The hollow feeling inside you, that is not emptiness, that is capacity. It is the space being prepared. It is the channel being dug deeper. And what is meant to flow through that new, deeper channel? Peace. Not a peace that is the absence of trouble, but a peace profound enough to contain it. A peace that is deep and slow-moving because it has been carved by everything it has carried. So tonight, as you feel the familiar edges of your own struggles, the parts of your life that feel sharp and abrasive, try not to see them as imperfections to be eliminated. See them as the points of contact, the places where your life is currently, actively, carving you into a deeper vessel. You are not being broken, you are being deepened. You are not being weakened, you are being hollowed out for a greater strength. The river does not fight the rock, it simply flows, and in its flowing, it transforms the rock into a path for its own beautiful, inevitable journey to the sea. Your journey, too, is beautiful and inevitable. And every scrape, every hollowed-out place, is proof that you are moving. You are flowing. You are becoming more than you were. You are becoming a deeper channel. You are becoming ready to hold a peace so vast and so quiet, it can only be learned in the depths, in the dark, in the gentle, relentless, transformative flow of a well-lived life. Now, just breathe and flow. Chapter 10. The Unseen Architecture. How your deepest cracks are quietly holding you together. Have you ever pressed your ear against an old wall and listened? Not for mice in the skirting or for the wind outside, but for the silence within it, that deep, granular quiet. If you listen closely enough, you can almost hear the memory of the weight it was built to bear, the tons of stone and history it has been holding up, for centuries without complaint. We walk through our days, surrounded by these structures, never thinking of the quiet agony of their purpose, to hold, to endure, to be the silent, unseen thing that makes the shelter possible. And what of the architecture of a person, of you? We are so quick to judge the design by the most visible features, the facade we present to the street, the charming window boxes, the freshly painted door. We point to the cracks in the plaster, the damp in the corner, the floor that groans under a certain weight. And we call these flaws. We call them damage. We wish them away. We stay up into the heavy hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering how to repair them, how to patch over the evidence of the storm, or the earthquake, or the simple, relentless settling of years. But what if you have it backwards? What if the most critical part of the design is the crack itself? Imagine for a moment the most beautiful ancient bridge you've ever seen, stone upon stone, arching over a rushing stream. It has stood for 500 years. Floods have tried to claim it. Frost has tried to shatter it. The endless procession of feet, of cartwheels, of time itself has worn grooves into its very spine, and if you look closely, you will see them. Fine, hairline fractures, tiny fissures that spiderweb through the masonry. The uneducated eye sees a bridge that is coming undone. The engineer sees a bridge that is breathing. Those tiny cracks are not a sign of failure. They are the secret of its resilience. They are pressure valves. They allow the entire structure to flex, to shift, to absorb the immense forces that would otherwise shatter something more rigid, more perfect. A perfectly solid, uncracked block of stone would be brittle. It would be broken by now. It is the flaw that allows for the strength. You, lying there in the quiet dark, are that bridge. Your architecture is not defined by the moments of perfect, uncracked ease. It is defined by the grooves worn by crossing it. It is defined by the hairline fractures that let you bend without breaking. Aristotle, walking the sun-drenched paths of his Lyceum, spoke of something he called eudaimonia. It's a word we often clumsily translate as happiness. But that is like calling the ocean water. It misses the depth, the life, the movement within it. Eudaimonia is less a feeling and more a state of being. It is the flourishing of a human life, the deep structural integrity of a soul. And he argued that this flourishing, this integrity, could not be achieved by a life of pure, untroubled pleasure. It could not be built from perfect, uncracked marble. It is built in the agora, the marketplace of life, with all its noise and friction and struggle. It is tempered in the forge of difficulty. The virtues we need to flourish: courage, patience, wisdom, justice. These are not abstract ideas. They are muscles. And a muscle cannot grow strong without resistance, without a weight to lift. Your pain, your weariness, the specific texture of your struggle tonight. This is not a flaw in the design. It is the weight. It is the resistance. It is the very thing that is, right now, at this silent hour, asking your courage to grow a little stronger, asking your patience to dig its foundations a little deeper, asking your wisdom to find a new grain in the wood to follow. Think of the deepest crack in your own architecture, the one you are most afraid of, the one you try to hide, even from yourself, the failure that still makes you wince in the shower, the loss that sometimes ambushes you in the spice aisle of the grocery store, the fear that whispers to you just as you're about to take a risk. We see these as weaknesses. We see them as the parts of us that are compromised. But what if they are the very things that are holding you together? That failure taught a part of you a lesson that success never could. That loss carved out a chamber in your heart that is now filled with compassion you would not otherwise possess. That fear is a fine fracture that allows you to be cautious, to be thoughtful, to not simply charge, brittle and headlong, into disaster. The world will try to sell you plaster and filler, quick fixes, toxic positivity that papers over the cracks with a cheerful, bright-colored lie. Just be happy, it says. Just let it go. But to let it go is to ignore the message in the fracture. To plaster over it is to trap the moisture inside, to let the rot set in. The true work, the sacred work, is not in hiding the damage. It is in understanding it. It is in listening to what the crack has to tell you about the weight it has been bearing. It is in honoring the architecture of your experience. You are not a blank slate. You are a historical document, a beautiful, complex, weathered structure. And every single line on your face, every single ache in your heart, every single memory that feels like a weak point, is a testament to the weight you have held. And it is the very reason you are still standing. So tonight, as you feel the weight of it all, as you feel the familiar groan of the floorboards, don't ask how to make the building perfectly still, perfectly silent. Ask instead what that groan is trying to tell you, what strength it is trying to build. Listen to the unseen architecture of your soul. It has been holding you up all this time. It knows what it's doing. Trust the design. And let that trust be the thing that finally allows you to rest. And as you begin to trust the design, as you begin to see the strength in the fracture, you might feel a softening, a loosening of the grip. And in that softness, a question might arise from the depths. What if the goal was never to fight the current, but to understand what it is, slowly, patiently, determinedly smoothing you into? Chapter 11. The Knight's Gentle Fist, and Why the Soul, like a river stone, is smoothed. Not by comfort, but by the current. There is a place where the river runs fast over a bed of stones. Go there sometime, sit on the bank. The noise is immense, a roaring white rush that drowns out the thoughts in your head. Watch the water. It is frantic, chaotic, all fury and foam. It seems violent. It seems angry. It seems like it is trying to destroy everything in its path. But now, look down. Look at the stones beneath the water. Reach your hand into the current, carefully now, and pick one up. Bring it into the air, dripping and cold. Now feel it. Run your thumb over its surface. It is impossibly smooth, not sharp, not jagged, not broken. Smooth, as if it has been polished by the gentlest of hands for 1,000 years. How can this be? The water that seems so furious, so destructive, is the artist. The current that appears to be an agent of chaos is a master craftsman. Its method is not gentle coaxing. Its method is relentless, perpetual, undeniable pressure. It is the knight's gentle fist. It holds the stone in its grasp and does not let go. It is the constant, wearing, smoothing touch that over time cannot be refused. The stone has no choice but to yield, not to break, but to yield. To give up its rough edges, to give up its sharpness, to become, through sheer persistent contact, something softer, something smoother, something that fits more comfortably in the hand of the world. You are that stone. The current is your life, your pain, your struggle, the relentless rush of your days and your worries. This is not a chaos that is trying to destroy you. It is a current that is trying to smooth you. It is the universe's way of wearing away everything you do not need, all the sharp, defensive edges you grew to protect yourself, all the jagged opinions that caught on everything, all the rough anxieties that made you difficult to hold. Aristotle saw nature as having a purpose, a telos, an end goal. The acorn's telos is the oak tree, the river's telos is the sea, and the human being's telos is to become truly, fully, flawedly human, to achieve that state of flourishing. And the current, the beautiful, terrifying, exhausting current, is the primary tool for that becoming. We make a fundamental mistake. We think the goal is to get out of the current, to find a quiet eddy on the side of the riverbank where the water is still, and we can remain untouched, unchanged, perfectly preserved in the shape we are in right now. We cling to the bank, our fingers digging into the mud, fighting the pull, terrified of being swept away. We exhaust ourselves with the fighting. We lie awake, not because of the current, but because of the immense effort of resisting it. What if we stopped? What if we unclenched our fingers from the mud, not to drown, but to finally allow the current to do its work? To trust that its purpose is not to dash us against the rocks, but to smooth us. To trust that the very thing we are fighting is the very thing that will grant us peace. The struggle is the smoothing. The weariness you feel tonight is the feeling of a rough edge being worn away. That problem that circles in your mind, that you can't solve. It is not a predator circling you. It is the water, flowing over you, asking you to become just a little bit smoother in the way you think. The grief that feels like a weight in your chest. It is not an anchor meant to hold you down. It is the current pressing against you, wearing away the sharp edges of your heart, making it more capable of holding and being held. The frustration, the disappointment, the daily irritations. These are not imperfections in the river. They are the river. They are the grit in the water that does the polishing. Tonight, you feel tired of the current. You feel battered by it. You want it to stop. But see if you can, just for a moment, shift your perspective. Don't feel the battering. Feel the smoothing. That heaviness in your limbs, that is the feeling of yielding, of letting the current hold you. That quiet in your mind, the kind that only comes after a long day of noise, that is the sound of a rough edge finally becoming smooth. You are not being broken, you are being perfected. The goal is not to escape the river. The goal is to become so smooth, so at peace with the flow, that the current moves through you and around you without resistance. You become part of the current itself, and in that state, there is no more fighting. There is only flow. There is only peace. So let the night's gentle fist hold you. Let the current of your life have its way with you. You are not a stone being destroyed. You are a stone being made sacred, smoothed by a love so vast and so relentless that it has been mistaken for violence. Trust the water and let yourself be carried. And as you smooth, as you yield to the current's purpose, you might start to feel the truth of the weight you carry, that it is not a burden to be set down, but a name to be learned, a shape to be claimed, a secret waiting in the dark, to be spoken aloud just for you.